You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
Adults don't like to step back because they got to fix something so they can move forward. 30-year-old shouldn't pout and should understand it. A 14-year-old doesn't understand it. Education as a whole has forgotten. Yeah, we want to train the brain, but the brain runs around in the body.
Confidence always comes after competence. Really need to teach kids how to live a movement-rich, healthy life.
Come to a life course, they get excited, and they leave and they forget 90% of what they learned. I can do this, and you walk up in your first class, you're like, I don't have a clue where to start. Learning to be physically literate is critically important to the quality of their life.
They can choose performance, they can choose plateau, or they can choose injury.
We have this idea of what we call base-build boot. This is Jeff.
And Mikki Martin, and you're listening to the Airey Brothers podcast.
How do you go about navigating the waters with youth that maybe don't necessarily have an interest in physical culture or physical fitness?
Are you specifically talking about teens or any age?
I work with high school kids, but most of them are ninth graders, so they're like 14 years old. So, I mean, that specifically was, I guess, for my question would be that, but I think maybe for the listeners would be any age, because a lot of our listeners have young kids, and some of them are on sports teams and stuff like that, and that's a whole other topic to get into as well.
So we're Jeff and Mikki Martin, and that usually kind of gets blended together the last 25 years while we worked with kids. It's just Jeff and Mikki Martin. But we're two separate people, and we work with different age groups, as well as we have, believe it or not, we have different ideas and different ways of kind of approaching things. So I'll answer some, and Mikki will answer others. I worked a lot mostly with middle school for tweens and teens, and Mikki worked with the younger kids, tweens. The physical education, physical education teachers, I think you need to start there. Physical education teachers, they have a hard, the last 25, 30 years, they've had a really hard road to hoe. The profession of being a physical education teacher has taken a dive, and they're the kind of people who, or not the kind of people, they're the kind of the last people thought of in the school system. And people forget, I think, that education as a whole has forgotten that, yeah, we want to train the brain, but the brain runs around in the body, and the two things are together, and we need a healthy, strong body so that the brain can learn and have a great life, and the brain can have a great life. And educate PE education back when I was going through the school. So this was the 60s and 70s. PE education was, they educated you on being physical fitness. So in elementary school, my teacher taught us basic tumbling. We had the vault. We actually had a trampoline. I learned all of these skills on how to move my body, which then translated to me to having a great chance to be athletic and do what I want all through my life. So I'm 64 years old now, and I get down on the floor with my grandkids, and I can read to them, play with them, go outside and do what I want. And that's all because of my physical education teachers throughout my elementary school and middle school and high school years. So I think, first of all, if you're listeners, you should be going to school boards and talking about elevating the position of physical education teachers, because they're as important as the math teacher and the science teacher. And you'd like to say something?
Unfortunately, with all the cuts and things that have happened in education, it is often, we work with a lot of school districts. We have worked with school districts, and we've also worked with single teachers and private schools and charter schools and YMCAs, so in all different sort of formats. And we've found that more recently, the position has not only been sort of the last person that they check in with instead of a foundation to everything else, but that now they're saying, well, we'll just kind of have the math teacher do that. We'll give them a list of, run around the track and squat at the corners or something. And that's all they need. So it's been even more diluted. And we're such supporters of people like you who are out there going, wait, we need real stuff here. We really need to teach kids how to live a movement-rich, healthy life and be strong. And so we love that that's what you're doing. We're super fans of PE teachers, and man, it's an important role.
There's only a few things that are associated with higher grades. One of them is physical fitness. There's only a few things that are associated with, having a happy quality of life. That's physical fitness and strength. And only a few things that are associated with living a long life that is considered not just healthy, but enjoyable. And that is strength and fitness.
A great health span.
A great health span. And that all starts with kids learning to love moving and learning to move well. So I did hear your question and just decided to go around the block before I came to the actual answering the question.
Politics, you should be a politician.
I should be a politician. Because PE kind of, because of what happened with PE and the way PE has kind of been swept to the side, what is required in PE has also changed. So back when I was young, they taught us the skills of physical fitness, the skills of physical movement. And now you get into like middle school, high school, and it's let's roll the ball out and let's teach you how to play basketball. Well, if a child doesn't know how, a child doesn't have the ability to move well, a game like basketball isn't fun. And one of the things that got us into CrossFit was that we lived across the street from a high school, and we actually could see the track and we could see the physical fitness class going on. And we would watch the teacher come out, bring out 50 kids, lots of kids. And they would have the kids run around the track or do whatever block they were doing. And they'd have 10 or 20% of the kids sitting in the stands or doing nothing or walking around the track, not taking part. And it got us thinking about like, wow, we got to be able to do something better than that, which is really what you're talking about. And so we kind of led into this CrossFit and introduced CrossFit into our
in 1999, we started a martial arts gym.
Right. So in 2003, we introduced CrossFit into our kids' classes in the martial arts, and the kids loved it. To a person, they loved it, and they would beg us to do these workouts, as warm-ups to the class. So, to me, the answer is the answer to your question is, where do people start? Do they start with, we have this idea of what we call base, build, boost. And base is teaching a child to understand and control their own body and space and understand proprioception. So kinesthetic awareness, where's my body in relation to itself? And proprioception, where's my body in relation to other things? Can a child hinge correctly? Well, if they can't hinge correctly, they're not going to be able to squat. They're not going to be able to pick stuff up off the ground. They're not going to be able to transfer and explosively open their hips. So we want to teach them these pieces and parts of movement, and then that they can use to add together to whole movement. And that gives them a foundation of being able to move well. And when somebody can do something well, they tend to enjoy it. So I did answer your question, but
it's hard to say start when they're in ninth grade.
Well, it's hard to say start if where we're starting is, let's start with badminton. Well, I've never learned the physical skill of making a connection between my hand and a long object and striking something, and so if I'm not capable or I haven't spent some time understanding how to control my own body, where my body is in relation to other things, it's hard to be introduced to sport, succeed, and find it enjoyable.
So we talk about movement gaps. So all these things that kids can no longer sort of do that used to be assumed for years and years, they were assumed. And now we're realizing there's also things like voids, not just gaps, but there's voids in exposure. Like they've had no exposure to things that we just innately go, well, they know how to make a paper airplane. They know how to do a jumping jack. They've seen done, nope. So much of that just doesn't happen anymore. And what was it, 2012? That was the year that we kind of put a pin in that. I went, whoa, everything's changed. Those kids that walk in today versus yesterday.
And then it changed again in 2019, 2020.
It went as you mentioned.
If you went back to 2012 and you had your kids coming into your gym class or gym, and you said to them, we're gonna broad jump in the warm-up. And you demonstrated broad jump. We're gonna start with 2 feet, initiate the jump, we're gonna land with 2 feet. After 2012, you started seeing kids being unable to do that, and you'd show them, and you'd see this pop, pop, and you're shaking your head yes because you see it. And after 2019, 2020, it's even worse. I mean, so now and if you take a kid who cannot initiate a jump in the land, which is taking a gym movement and introducing some element of surprise or athleticism to it, and they can't do that, then taking that child and saying, let's do sport, they're not as successful as they could be if we walk back. So we have these movement gaps that come from a lack of movement exposure, and we as a culture need to change that. And I think it's uncommonly difficult for a teacher at this point, or a coach at this point, to see these kids coming in and then try to start at the pinnacle of the pyramid.
Yeah, these kids are walking right into a weight room, and they can't literally move 2 feet simultaneously in a short jump. So and there are coaches that go, okay, we're starting with a 45-pound bar because that's what we got, and they're not seeing that they don't have enough for that yet.
So where do you take a kid? Where do you take the kids that are? Well, you got to take them back to the start. You got to teach them how to control their own body, and we have to teach them that, and then we have to pair that. See, you can control your own body, you can do these things, and now this is fun to be able to do these things together. And then we can take those skills, and now we can start to apply those skills to sport, which is inherently fun.
And the truth is, a great coach like you, I'm gonna say like you, or
thank you.
Quisenberry, right. Amazing. We'll throw him out there. Brandeis Nashville. He's a strength and conditioning coach at a high school. Also, Brandeis Lab has been with us for years, an amazing coach. But people like that are able to teach that more quickly than you imagine, because those are gaps that develop. It could be years. A 13-year-old who's truly had no exposure to movement, like they've been sitting on a couch, really, truly, they've mostly been sitting on a couch.
That's what he's dealing with.
Right, and that's what you're getting. So, but a good coach that goes, okay, I'm not going to throw, not because he should be able to lift a 45-pound bar, we all agree should be able to, but can't and shouldn't do that first. A good coach can move them fairly quickly with the right base build boost progression, where they're not just going, start here, like, okay, we're going to start with flips and gymnastics today.
So Coach Quisenberry, who is Brandeis Nashville, was a elementary school teacher for elementary school PE teacher for 20 years, implemented the Brandeis method for several years, was the state of Tennessee's PE teacher of the year in 2018, moved to the high school, Ravenwood High School, and then he instituted a program. He began the strength and conditioning program there, but then he introduced a program for kids who had never lifted weights and never been athletic, that kind of thing. And I got an email from him maybe a month ago saying, I'm getting emails from the parents saying, my kid said, I want to buy a pull-up bar, and I want to buy this thing, and I want to do these things. But what he does is go back to those beginning movements, those beginning pieces of movements, teach those kids, fills in those gaps, and then moves them along a very kind of timeline to become proficient at lifting and using the barbell to gain strength.
Everybody wants success. Everybody feels good and is motivated by success. I mean, that's obvious, right? I mean, but haven't you been in a situation where somebody sort of pushed you ahead and you knew you weren't ready for what was coming? They just went, oh yeah, you know, you're good. And you're like, I'm not good and I know it. And this is going to suck for me. So
I've been in a
doing
lot of those situations.
that to kids is messed up. Because you're just setting them up to fail and they feel insecure the whole time. But if you give them motivation after motivation after motivation by incremental progress, so we're going to start them here, they're going to succeed, they're going to feel great about it. Now we're going to take a tiny baby step and we're going to do that, and they're going to feel awesome, and they're going to take another step, and then all of a sudden they're going to see they went a mile with baby steps and they're going to start to feel great. So really that's in essence how we do it, and how Dan's done it, and Justin Harris, Brendick St. Louis, he's at a private, but that's an elementary private school, but he does the other end, you know, all the way up from the littles.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about when you were in school, Jeff, and your physical education experience, and how PE tends to be the one that, you know, falls by the wayside pretty quickly. I'm down here in South Carolina, and the graduation requirement for high school students in South Carolina is 1 physical education credit.
1 semester, right?
Yes, sir.
Wow. And that's, you know, I think if we just said that to people, okay, your graduation requirement is 1 semester of math. That's all you're required. Well, you can get all of it on your phone anyway. You don't really need to do math. That is not uncommon though. Same in California, same in, you know, some of the other states.
Yeah, we started to see them literally banning human movement. They were banning running on elementary school playgrounds in the town that we lived in.
Jeez.
Because kids
because it was dangerous.
might trip and fall or run into each other. So this is crazy.
Yeah.
That it's gotten pretty bad. So how do we do it? How do we motivate them in the teen years?
Well, in the first, we do have to bring everything back to helping them find success and giving them the tools to be successful in movement. So we would take what we call movement skills. So if we're going to teach the hinge, so if you ask kids to pick the backpack up off the ground today, what happens? 90% of them bend at the SI joint and don't hinge at the hip. So teaching them how to hinge at the hip, we do a thing that we call, we tier all of our movement within the movement patterns. So tier 0 we call movement skills, and those are pieces and parts of movements that we talked about. Tier 1 would be movements that can be slowed down into tempo styles. So within the hinge pattern, that would be picking something up off the ground or deadlifting. Tier 2 would be something that requires speed. So that'd be something like the kettlebell swing. It's not a kettlebell swing if you don't have speed, or 2-hand med ball throw for height. And then tier 3, it's something that is 2 or more movement patterns that can be added together, or a change of direction. So something like Olympic weightlifting. So the problem is, if we just think about the hinge pattern, one problem is in most cases, in most gyms, people want to jump to tier 3. I want to get the kid doing that, but they haven't taught the kid how to hinge correctly, how to brace correctly. So we start with tier 0, which is teaching a kid where his body is in space. And in the hinge pattern, teaching a child to hinge would be what we call waiting the outfield. So if you think about somebody waiting in the outfield, what do they look like? Hands are on their knees, back is nice and flat, they've hinged at the hips. Generally, their shins are vertical. If you're generally facing forward. So we would do something like, in warm-ups, like we're going to do, 3 waiting the outfield. So you do waiting the outfield, you stand back up, waiting the outfield, stand back up, do something else, do something else, do something else, come back and do that. So a new kid who's not been exposed to movement starts to get the pattern of hinging at the hip. And then once they get the pattern of hinging at the hip, I can add, some things in, like let's pick up a medicine ball. Good, now you've hinged and picked up the medicine ball. Now let's go waiting in the outfield, pick up the medicine ball and throw it as far as you can. So now we're starting to get some success and some fun in the things. How far can you throw it? How far can you throw it next time? And those kind of things. So we work on the movement piece, the movement skill that we call movement skills. Add that together with something that's easy. It can be done slowed down and done tempo style
Or paused.
And then we can start to show some explosion with that, which then starts to move toward athleticism.
Speaking of the different tiers and kind of bringing it back, so you're not starting in a squat because you can't even maintain that position. Is there, when you guys introduce these tiers and you're starting at 0, like you just said, in that kind of bent over position with the tight back, do the kids still stay engaged, or do they feel like,
Oh, yeah.
because, in a world where you have social media and you see the people doing the snatches and everything, I want to do that, but they can't correlate that they can't do that, they still stay engaged with those movements?
We both probably answer differently, because I'm thinking of kids when you say kids and he's thinking of teens, and it's going to be different. But yes, it's everything else you do. Like think about, there are things you can do that aren't, that thing itself isn't as exciting as everything else that's going on at the same time. So other props involved when you're talking about little kids and music and everything that's going on plays into their engagement. And also you don't go, we're going to do waiting in the outfield, or for the littles, we want them to, of course, midline stability we call strong tree. So we're not going to have them stand there and look like a strong tree for the whole half hour. We're going to say, we're going to spend, quick hit, 3 minutes. We're going to do maybe run around and do some animal walks. And then we're going to hit strong tree for a total of 2 minutes. And then we're going to go, mobilize and do our practice. And then we're going to do our play, which is the workout. And in that play, we'll repeat it, but it's hidden. They don't even know that that's in there. And then we play a game. And again, we're going to have core stability in the game, but they don't know it. Maybe they'll be planking or something. They're not thinking about it, but we're working on it. And in the teen group,
middle school and high school kids, in all the time we had our gym for 25 years, and all that time I never had a kid come in the door and go like, I want to snatch. Never had that.
Parents, though.
Parents might, but they never did. So, hey, I want to throw a ball harder. I want to be able to jump high onto that box. All of those kind of things. Yeah, they want to do those things, and so it was a natural progression to move these kids from base, where we're teaching them how to move, build where we're teaching them to expand their movement vocabulary using the rules that they've learned at base, to boost where we're actually going to start to introduce movements that are like snatch and power clean. Well, once kids are kind of in that funnel, they understand that the way to get down here, where these kids are doing some of the amazing things that our kids were doing, was to apply themselves at the first 2 levels. And really, as a coach, I never saw a kid, skip through the levels and really maximize their training potential, really maximize their potential in a sport or ability. The place a truly exceptional athlete excels at is when they excel and they spend time in that base and build phases. If you're talking to a boxer, what do? Well, I work on my basics, and it's always that with really exceptional athletes. Their basics are very sound.
And confidence always comes after competence. So we've got to spend the time to make them competent. Then they will be confident, which is motivating.
Which is motivation
to go out there and try anything. Because like the kids left our programs, walking onto college sports, doing stuff on walking onto college campuses, walking onto a sport they've never played before and making a team, and in many cases making varsity teams, because they had so much competence and they were so confident that they could try anything. And that's for us, and I think for PE teachers too, right? That's the goal. We want to make them able to do whatever they want to do, and that will be a healthy, active, movement-rich life if they just feel great about the movement. But if we skip steps, then we set them up for going, oh, I couldn't really do that, and now I'm, like the black belts that were mind blown when they found out that their Taekwondo school that they bought a $6,000 belt in 6 months for didn't work. We don't want to do that.
Well, the first time they get hit in the face, they go, "Uh-oh." That's what it feels like.
Ooh, I think I skipped some stuff.
Skip some stuff. Don't. We don't want our kids to skip getting hit in the face.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I
I
said.
think that's what I heard out of all of that.
Competence,
Yeah.
confidence
Confidence
is motivating.
breeds motivation.
Yeah.
Talking about that competence, you have, especially in a physical education setting where you have a wide variety of individuals, where some may be athletes or think that they're athletes and think that they're competent. And then maybe you put them in some of these, tier zeros, and they can't do some of these basic things like hinging, but they want to jump to the next level. Or I've also seen that they've been so conditioned in other PE classes in other schools where they just want to play the games now. They don't necessarily want to do some of the building the competency in some of these areas. And I'm having these conversations that I'm trying to express to them. You have to trust me. I'm going to make you a better athlete, but we've skipped a couple steps here. We've got to redo some things. And that's in some individuals where I'm with such a big group that I'm having a bit of a difficulty where they want to, I want to deadlift, or I want to do this. I'm like, we can't deadlift yet because you don't know how to hinge. And I'm sorry that wherever gym you've gone to before, wherever you've done that, they've let you do this, but I don't see you in a healthy position, and I don't want you doing this until we can figure out how to do things properly. So that's where I don't want to say my frustration. I guess that's where my challenge is I'm finding is getting these kids to believe that we have to take a couple steps back before we can take a step or two forward.
It is.
I hear you.
Yes.
And we've heard that.
It is one of the problems when we talk to gyms, small micro gyms that are running kids programs, is because they often jump the kids forward, and adults don't want to deload, right? Adults don't like to step back because they got to fix something so they can move forward. But a 30-year-old shouldn't pout and should understand it. A 14-year-old doesn't understand it, but you have to. What we can tell them, and what's hard to say to a 14-year-old who is, if you move incorrectly, and let's say you're squatting incorrectly, your knees are folding in, your back is rounded. Couple easy things to fix. One of three things. A couple things will happen. One is you get hurt and you have to deload. That's really rare for a kid. But number two is the one that they don't want to hear. Is that so now they're squatting 225, their knees are folding in, their back is rounding, and their poor mechanics don't allow them to move up. They will never lift more. They're going to have to deload to learn to move better so that they can go up. So we want kids to understand that the process, the journey of learning to move well, benefits them in their training potential. So if you move well in the beginning, if they came to you moving well, it'd be a lot easier, the training potential. What you have to do is we have to walk them back and have them understand that what we're trying to accomplish is to help them move forward. And that's a really, the process is just really difficult if somebody has allowed them to move to that position. You take a young baseball player and he pitches really hard and has a funky throw. Well, eventually, his shoulder's going to go or his elbow's going to go, but he throws so hard. Nobody wants to say, you need to step back and learn how to throw correctly. And eventually something happens. Either he doesn't continue to get better or he hurts himself. We've got to be the people who step in and go like, look, let's wind this back. And that's a really hard place to be. And I don't really have any.
They can choose performance, they can choose plateau, or they can choose injury. Which one do you want? Make them pick. You can set yourself up for the injury group, really, really easy. You can set yourself up to plateau by skipping what I'm asking you to do, or you can continue to perform and do it forever if you take the time.
But you're asking a 14-year-old to make a pretty adult decision, which is hard. Which is hard for
exactly. So it's always hard because it's not a finished brain you're dealing with.
I like to reframe the idea, though, of a child being an athlete to a child becoming athletic. And if we can have that discussion, if we can have kids understand that when you're athletic, you can play any sport. You can be an athlete in any sport. But if I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete in a sport, in a thing. So the first thing I want to do is start talking to kids about the difference between being an athlete and being athletic. Being athletic is something that sets you up for leading a successful, movement-rich life.
Jeff, you raise a really good point there, and it's a topic Rich and I always talk about. We have cousins that have kids, friends that have kids, and you see kids that are 8 years old, 10 years old playing football, and that's their sole focus. Or they're playing football, then they're going to soccer, and then they got basketball, and they're doing all this travel and stuff. And it goes back to being athletic opposed to being an athlete. And at that age, I don't think anyone, I learned the hard way from myself in my life. I was running competitively when I was in third grade. By the time I got to high school, I wanted nothing to do with that. And it was all get me on the wrestle mat. So is there any way to change how we're doing this as a culture, or are we so far gone where, mom and dad want to stand on the sideline and say, hey, that's my kid that scored a touchdown when he's 8, but when he's 18, he's not even playing anymore? Is there any way to kind of diverge that, or are we just so broken as a culture it's going to be hard?
I think we try to stay really optimistic. We see, and you can go both ways. You can say, look, there's a lot of that, what you just described, and it's disappointing, that's for sure. But we also see that a lot of information is coming out about 3-sport athletes and who are actually getting picked up as pros now. And have you read the book Range, David Epstein?
Yes.
Fantastic book. And it talks about breadth of experience leading to longevity in many aspects. And performance is one of them. And he uses the example, I think, of, that Tiger Woods and then Federer, is it, that he uses in there?
Yeah.
And talk about the different types of experiences they had and how in certain things a single focus is actually beneficial, but in more often than not, a broad focus is more beneficial. And that information seems to be getting out there more. And the more we can disseminate that and get people to read that book and have an awareness that there's a lot of research and articles and things talking about that. And that's what the pros are saying. That's who's getting picked up, those people who are doing a variety of things. And since that's better for kids and better for everyone to be doing things that aren't going to be so specific that they're more prone to injury or burnout, like you talked about.
I wrote an article for the CrossFit Journal, I think it was 2010, 2011. And it was about sports injury and the rise, something like 400% increase in the doctors were seeing a 400% increase in catastrophic knee injuries with non-contact catastrophic knee injuries with young soccer players and or athletes. And kind of this, we've been talking about this now for over a decade, about this, this specialization in sport. This, my kid needs to be doing, sport 3, 5, 6 times a week, and a single sport, and what the results are. And like Mikki said, there's a lot coming out now about what scouts are looking for, and how to actually have successful athletes. And it isn't from specializing early. I think the message is starting to get out. I also think if one thing came out good that came out of the pandemic, is that parents are now understanding that sitting on the couch playing games all the time is really, really bad for kids. And it's really, it is a lot easier to have a discussion with the parents saying, I know they don't want to be in here. I know they don't want to, don't want to do this, but it's going to be good for them in the long run. And we like to talk with the gyms that we're mentoring with and say, look, parents will bring their kid to your gym for an activity, something for the kid to do, because they understand now that they need to get the kid off the couch. And they need to get the kid doing, in some cases, they need to get the kid doing something other than the one sport that they're doing. What we need to do is get them in the door because they're doing an activity, and then we need to educate the parent that what we're doing isn't just an activity, it's something that is essential for the child to be successful in life. And that really ties into what a physical education teacher does. Look, it isn't just time spent so you get a credit. We're trying to teach them something essential for their life. And whether it's the child who sits on the couch, or it's the child that has been, playing baseball since he was 6 years old, and that's his sole focus, learning to be athletic, learning to be physically literate is critically important to the quality of their life. It's essential to the quality of their life. So let's get them in the doors thinking about activity. Let's get them into a physical education class thinking about activity. And then let's find a way to educate the parents on why it's important that they do this, and let's help the kids understand that moving well is good for them, and that they're going to find joy in it.
Amen. I told the kids first day of school, I want you to be able to do these things when you're my age or older than me. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be fit, but I want you to know how to do this stuff and how to move so that you can do this for the rest of your life. I understand that some of you are a little bit more passionate about movement and physical fitness, but as a whole, we all need to be able to take care of our bodies, because, and I said to them, a lot of teachers in this building or in schools will tell you that their class is the most important class. They said, but this truly is the most important class, because it doesn't matter what you get on your SATs or your ACTs or what college you go to, or, what company you start working for out of college and making 6-7 figures. They said, if you don't have the longevity, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, because you're not going to be able to utilize any of that stuff. He said, so this is what's going to give you the longevity so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor from these other classes and for your education.
That's spot on. And we say it in a slightly different way. It's adventures and challenges and experiences. You want them. You want the ones you want, right? And everyone's unique in what that is. But no one ever thinks of that in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks of that in a shuffle step where they can barely, I'm not going to be able to do that because I've got to go up that hill. And they're young, they're young, so it's hard to kind of impress, look into your life.
It's funny,
but it matters.
I think our boys were 20 and 18. They were on team, and they went to the CrossFit regionals on team, and they did pretty well. I mean, I think they got 12th or 15th or something like that.
In SoCal,
which wasn't bad. And they came back and they were really happy and they were high. And I remember looking at them and I said, you know what, I'm proud of you, but I'm not going to be happy until I see you guys compete as masters athletes, because then I'll know that I was a successful coach. Because it doesn't matter how well you did when you're 18 if you're done at 18.
Yeah.
We had I think in our gym, our little gym in the mountains outside of San Diego, I think we had over 100 state national powerlifting records with our teams, and it and kids, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter to us at all if they were done with being strong and active when they left our class, and they aren't, which is really fortunate. We teaching kids to move well, teaching them to apply it to whatever sport they want, and helping them be strong. When they step outside of your gym, when they step outside of your class, there's success there when they apply those things to the rest of their life. And we can see that now on the backside, having 25 years of experience in doing this.
And the functional fitness style, it gives them a always can do this template. Like a lot of kids that were rock stars and thinking maybe they were going to be pros, rock stars in high school, but then high school ended.
And now they're done.
And there's nothing there. So giving them an opportunity in your gym, at your high school, to do something that goes beyond that won't be, well, now I can do pickup games if I can find people, but they could go somewhere and continue that journey either in a CrossFit style or functional fitness style gym, or obstacle course racing, or Olympic lifting, or anything that they've gotten the basics for, or any adventure or pursuit that they want to do.
Well, I like to tell people, people don't bring their kids to our gym to be good at gymming. They bring them to be good at whatever activity, task, or life or sport life brings their way that they want to take part in. So my job isn't to make them good at snatching or make them good at doing thrusters and pull-ups. That's my job, is to teach them the rules of moving well and make them competent in moving well and being able to apply that to whatever they want to go do outside of the gym.
I think you both just hit it right on the head as far as giving people life skills for the rest of their life, and it doesn't end on the court or on the field. You're going to be able to take these skills and go with you for the rest of your life, be happy and healthy, because we know the potency that fitness can do for people's lives. One thing that Mikki, you said, or Jeff, you said at the beginning of the podcast, is when people introduce you guys, it's kind of one name, right? It's kind of Mikki Jeff, right? Real quick. I really wanted to get into the partnership, because me and Rich, being brothers, we know how hard it can be. We lived together for 5 years and we were doing the podcast. So I know how hard it can be when you have that personal attachment with your partner. And, sometimes that stuff might get in the way of business. So I'm curious, how do you guys have such a successful business and successful marriage and maintain your individuality?
I think we primary thing is always love and respect each other, and never treat. The imagery or the metaphor I like to use is always act like you would on a second date. So all those things that you think of, and you're really conscious about, that you're kind and considerate, and why would you lose that for the person you care most about? And so to us, keeping a good relationship, we always treat each other.
Mostly treat each other.
We mostly treat each other in a really respectful way. And we are really lucky because we get along really well. But I'll tell you a fun little story that I'll let you.
Okay.
We have a 4-bedroom house and we don't really need that much space. And so we have offices. We've got 2 offices and a garage gym. And so, but we used to just have one office, which Jeff recently moved out of and moved downstairs, which is where we are now, because somebody talks a lot and they talk to themselves sometimes. But it was fine. I knew.
So
we said, well,
my
let's
workday
have
was
a
kind of like,
podcast.
what did you say? What? Nothing. I'm just talking. I'm just okay.
That'll be the
trying to get to
podcast room. But
I think
then it was your office.
I mean, there's the work relationship, and then there's the relationship, and I think I wake up every day and remember why I fell in love with my wife, and that's that it, and all of the reasons that I'm a better person because of her, and then there's the work part, and we have a single purpose. And we come at it from different angles. So we have a single purpose, which is do what's best for kids and try to help people, help their kids be more athletic and all of the things that we do. But I think we have a deep respect for what I'm good at and what she's good at, and so I just like, look, this is your area. Tell me what to do now, and I think that's really helped us quite a bit.
I think if at any point we both kind of wanted to do this, we both want to be working with teens all the time, or we both want to work with the little kids all the time, that would have made it harder. But because we both gravitated to different populations, and we both really got involved with learning more about that specific thing, it allowed us to have our own place within the same goal, within the same mission, really. And that does make a big difference. And then we're also pretty bottom line kind of people, and we're pretty able to communicate, what I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm really not good at. You know what you're good at, you know what you're really not good at. Neither one of us is insecure, and it was like, well, no, I'm good at everything. So
I'm not.
It's fine. We can go, yeah, you should do that, or you should do that. And yeah, it works.
The Brand X method, you mentioned you have a coach in Nashville and some other coaches. How many Brand X gyms are there? Are you working specifically? Have any school districts brought in the Brand X method for their physical education department programs?
Yes, we've worked with many school districts over time. We've worked with San Francisco. We've worked with Clark County early on and across the days. We worked with Riverside. We've worked with a couple in New Jersey. And then we have people who are running Brand X programs at specific schools. Now that's more common than a whole district taking it on. Districts taking it on is tough, as you know. So different. Every single district is different. Their rules, their requirements, their expectations, their goals. You get a new superintendent, they change everything, and then all of a sudden it's out because they don't care about PE. That's the most common thing. Is a new superintendent comes in and goes, yeah, man, we don't care about PE anymore. That's out. So it's awful. But we stick with it. Over time, thousands of coaches have been through our trainings, and now. And the locations, we've got about 80 locations, but we're working on some partnerships that are going to bring some more locations, we think.
And so within the schools, is it the PE teacher themselves that is coming to you, and then they're instituting that within their specific school?
Yeah, and yes. It's usually one PE teacher who's like, I've always been following you. I'd want to get it into my school. I've been working to get it into my school. Sometimes it takes years for them to get somebody who's in power to say, yes, we can get a training. What we do now is a hybrid, because we have this 30-hour extensive course and then an ever-growing resource, which is part of the course, because we don't think it should end. There's always current information, so we're always putting that out there. We do a live course, so we can go to a school site, do a live course for however many people, and give everybody the digital content. So that way they get everything. You can ask all the questions. We always want them to do the digital stuff first so that when we get there, we can do more. It's more efficient. But it doesn't always happen. And some teachers will be very committed and others aren't. So
right now we have the professional youth coach certification, and the professional youth coach certification has 2 courses that live underneath it. The first course goes over the why and science underpinning training a child in biopsychosocial model, which the teacher understands what a child can express in certain age groups, what they can understand and what they need socially. So a 7-year-old needs different things than a 14-year-old, which seems to make sense to a teacher, but to a lot of coaches, it doesn't. And so we go through the why and science
well, it doesn't come naturally, maybe.
Of working with kids in this way. And then the second course goes over how do you take that information and apply it in your gym, school, or club. And so it's all about implementation and how you set your gym up, how you set the classes up, how you set a kids class, teen class. We have how to set up a youth strength class. We're really very specific about it. There's over 100 videos on how to teach movement. So in that tier system we talked about, another 100 videos on physical literacy and how to teach physical literacy movements. Another 100 videos that are demonstrations of movement from various gyms around the world that are implementing our method. And then I think we have 30 to 35 games that are videoed that people can use in it. And that is the evergreen course that Mikki is talking about. We put, we keep researching new things on youth fitness and putting them in every month and asking our labs and our gyms to videotape different movements so we can put those up and things like that. And then on top of that, then we also do mentoring with gyms. So, we all want kids to get in the gym. We all want kids to learn to move well and be able to apply it outside of the gym, but you have to run a successful program, not just be able to teach it, but you also got to be able to run the business side of this thing. And running a youth business is quite a bit different than running an adult business. And so how do you talk to the customer, which is the parent, and how do you educate the parent on what we're doing and why it's important, and how do you show progress for the kids, and how do you how does that lead to retention of the kids, things like that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now, you mentioned those courses that you guys provide. Is that just like, in order to be a Brand X coach, at some point, do you have to be at one of those seminars? Can you do it all online, or is it at some point you have to have that belly-to-belly interaction?
No, that's a great question. That changed over time. The pandemic kind of put a stop to the live stuff, but luckily we had just launched in early 2019, we launched the fully digital PYCC. So we were able to just go, okay, PYCC. And then when we were able to, we could say, oh, now we can do this hybrid now, where we can do both. Because we think there's good in both ideas, right? There is good human contact there, and also the consistency of the digital product, and we know what you got.
That's where I think that the digital side is important for understanding the basics of teaching the kids. So you can come in, we know what they've learned, we know what the coaches have seen, we know that if they're going to teach a squat, they're going to start here, and we're going to progress through these things. And in a live course, people come to a live course, they get excited, and they leave and they forget 90% of what they learned. and all of us went to our CrossFit level 1, came out going like, yeah, I can do this. And you walk up in your first class, you're like, I don't have a clue where to start on teaching a squat. and so with our course, you can go back and go like, I don't have a clue where to teach a squat. There's where I start to teach the squat.
Okay, I remember that.
I remember that now. And
we had those tiny videos.
Yeah, those tiny videos. Dave Lay is trying to squat. So we like the digital for the consistency of presentation and consistency of knowledge and content. We like the live courses because we get to really dive deep into some topics and really answer some questions.
So I always feel like we learn something from
Yeah.
the people there every single time. Like there's something new. People who are really engaged and motivated to work with kids, they're bringing something to the table we haven't heard before. And no matter how many countries we travel to and thousands of coaches we talk to, they have all got something to tell us. And we really enjoy that interaction. And then we, often stay in touch, or 10 years down the road, we'll reconnect with those people and hear what they've been doing. And I don't know. I don't think there's ever really a substitute for real human connection. So we appreciate being able to get out there and do the live stuff because it is different. It adds a different element. And we can network people once we've met them a little more accurately, Oh yeah, I know somebody else doing that. Let me connect you so you can talk.
Appreciate the live element and the digital element because Jeff, like you said, I was the same after my level 1. I got so many tools I don't know which one to use, or it's not going to work on them. So I appreciate being able to have those references to go back. Besides the courses, what else are you guys putting out? I know you guys have a podcast. Where can people find you? What other information can they get of yours?
So the podcast is the Martin family. It's not Brand X, but Brand X is
the focus.
A sponsor.
A lot of the focus.
So a lot of the content is Brand X stuff, but it's not always. So Youth Fitness Podcast is everywhere: Spotify, Apple, Google, all the podcast companies, and you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on Facebook a little bit, not so much anymore.
Even though we're old,
Threads.
We're not on Facebook much anymore.
You're better off.
Aren't we supposed to stay there?
Yeah, we should stay in Facebook. Guess what? We're not going to be able to do. We're not going to go to TikTok.
I'll start posting cat pictures.
Instagram, our website, the Brand X Method, and the Youth Fitness Podcast is awesome. We love doing it.
This is going to surprise everyone. We have an email which is Jeff and Mikki at thebrandxmethod.com.
Talking about helping youth athletes and physical education students. So you also mentioned that you had kids who had never necessarily played a sport, but then went on to colleges and walked on to schools and made teams and stuff like that. So I was just curious, we interview a lot of wrestling coaches, and so we're always keen on the coaching tree that stems from one particular head coach and how many of his athletes have then become Division I coaches. So I was just curious, what, if any of, other than the boys of your disciples, have gone on to become coaches or open gyms and that sort of stuff.
And we used to keep a list.
I think we had something like 16 gyms that were opened from people that were in Brand X at one point or another. I don't think we've only really had a couple of kids who came out and opened their own gyms. Jason, one, and a couple of others, but
the kids that there were 3 kids in remote kids. They're like 30 now, but they opened a CrossFit facility at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and there were 3 individuals that went there year after year and had come out of our gym, and it wasn't. And then they were coaches there at the Air Force Academy gym. So that was kind of a unique thing. All 3 of them went to the same place and ended up doing that.
Very cool.
So we have 4 rapid fire questions we ask all our guests. First question I have is, are you all coffee drinkers?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We're not sophisticated. We are not sophisticated coffee drinkers.
All right, that leads to my follow-up. How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
We have every kind of brewer in our house that exists, I think. We've got an espresso, we've got an old-fashioned, whatever you pick up at Walmart kind, and then we've got a press.
And we use all of them almost every day.
Okay, respect.
I am black coffee.
I'm not.
Black coffee any time of the day, any time of the day or night. black coffee, and I can't make my wife's coffee because she changes what she does, puts in it
It's like a recipe.
every 3 days, and I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, I give up.
What's the current recipe?
Trader Joe's coconut cream and a little dash of Torani vanilla.
But we have a big bag of Laird's.
Yeah, we got Laird's. I go with Laird's once in a while because I go back and forth. It's a high fat content.
Okay.
Do you both have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of the Martins?
Oh,
Yes, slightly different.
okay.
But we both do you usually wake up earlier than I do.
I get up about 5. I head downstairs. I turn the coffee pot on because we made the coffee the night before. Turn the coffee pot on. I then go out into the gym and I spend 15 minutes doing some kind of round robin, push pull, squat, lunge, hinge, kind of something for 15 minutes or so. Come back inside, quick cold shower because I'm supposed to have a cold shower. Outside to stare at the sun and do some breathing exercises.
Yeah, Huberman stuff there.
And breathing exercises. And then about that time you start to come down and you'll start talking to me while I'm trying to do my breathing exercises, which is totally doesn't fit in. Hey, I'm sitting here quietly trying to breathe in and you're interrupting me. But
I do drink a glass of water. I do the morning, take in the light, drink a glass of water. I try the cold thing and I'm just a really big baby about it. So it's really rare that I get much of the cold shower in there. Movement throughout the day. We definitely try to. Definitely do a couple miles a day walking our dog, morning and night. And then we have a Slack board, a Gib board. Have you seen those?
Yes.
They're magic. So we have it's our like coffee table. So it's in our living room. And so it's like we go in, maybe refill our water, play around on that for 2 minutes. So that thing is always being used.
And we're really fortunate we have our gym in our garage. So even though we live in Phoenix and it's miserable, we tend to, it's just now slightly under miserable, by the way. We've finally broken miserable. We're down to just uncomfortable.
All our neighbors think we're nuts.
Yeah, we go outside, and we'll do 10 minutes outside. So we'll go outside and we tend to do it once or twice together during the day. Mm-hmm. And then we can talk on the air bike and go back and forth on the air bike and on the ski erg or something and do something. And then
sometimes we
lift
do
heavy later in the day.
One of us 2 minutes on the bike, the other one 2 minutes ski, and then we'll switch for 20 minutes or whatever. We do that kind of thing. I don't know, once every couple of weeks. But yeah, that's kind of our routine stuff we do together. And then always kind of fine tuning, what are our goals, and that's different really every 5 years. Right now for our age, we want some cardio stuff. We want strength. We want balance.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking about that. Are we doing,
adjusting the way we work out?
Right. Adjusting it. And how much are we doing? Why? And is it meeting our goals? And mobilizing at night. We do that sometimes when we flick on the TV. We just mobilize for about 5 or 10 minutes.
I'm learning Spanish. She's learning Swedish.
Cool.
Yeah.
Might as well do that. When I slip into Social Security, I can then speak Spanish. Cool.
What?
Have you guys hiked Camelback Mountain at all?
No,
we haven't.
We've hiked the White Tanks, which are right near us.
And up into Sedona.
And in Sedona,
we have one of our sons just moved. He's a Chandler firefighter. Keegan, we've met him. He's a Chandler firefighter paramedic now, and he's out in the East Valley. So we go out there once a week and take care of our granddaughter and run around that area.
Yeah,
and then our other one is in Flagstaff, and we get to go up there, and we're going up there this weekend we'll do some hiking up there.
Awesome. Flagstaff's beautiful.
Yeah, we love it. We like it better than where we live.
Yeah.
Is it that bad with the heat? Does it really beat you up that bad?
This summer, not a lot of breaks, and what was it, 45 days, 50 days? I don't know. It was a lot of days over 115,
Ooh.
Which
It's the
is,
dry heat though.
Yeah, that's yeah,
there's a weird thing. It's like to 105, we're like, we're
it's
good.
fine.
But there's something at 106 where you go, no, I'm not good anymore. I don't want to be out here. So yeah, that was a bummer. But now we're back to about 100. That's good. I'm good.
Nice.
Kind of discouraged me a little bit, but for some reason, because I have that sun practice as well, I've been craving Arizona. I've never been there, but just something about having that much sun is what I'm in Florida right now, and we're kind of just at the spot where it's not miserable anymore. It's kind of just normal, but I think it's a different kind of miserable than what you guys experience.
Yeah, the humid thing
It's just
is
yeah.
awful too.
Yeah.
We've got
Well,
family at
in
Connor's in Houston, Travis is in Houston, and when we go visit them, it's
What is this?
Yeah.
Air is just water. There's no
Like
air. It's just
swimming
water.
through it.
Like a
It's just
blanket.
water. But you know,
they're out there working out
to
like
be
crazy.
fair to Phoenix, it is vacation weather from about October to end of May, and then it's just like the surface of the sun from through June, July, August, and September.
Yeah.
So, what are you all listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Well, I just picked up the Airey Brothers podcast and started listening to you guys. Seriously, listened to a couple of those the last couple of days, and Huberman, and then I'll listen to almost anything. If she tells me it's good, I'll listen to it. And
We're
music wise,
Kelly and Juliet fans from the get-go.
Yeah.
So Ready State, we're always listening to that. Future Fitness, Eric Melzone, Huberman, sometimes Peter Attia I listen to. And then music, recently Maluma, is that his name? I may have that wrong.
No.
Is it Maluma?
I don't know.
Somebody's going to correct me. Our son Duncan is always bringing us new stuff. He'll send me, I'm listening to this. So recently it's the new Hozier album.
Okay.
So I've
I
listened a
would've
little to
pronounced
that.
Me
Listen a
too.
little of that.
So I grew up on Waylon and Hank Williams and things like that. So I'm really pretty easy to please with music. It's just well,
You're just making it sound that way. We like all kinds of music. I mean, we've got pretty much all of it, just a little of everything, really. But we like so many things that we've already heard that we're probably not as adventurous as listening to new stuff. But I think it's great that Duncan sends us stuff because then we hear it. Try some new music.
Yeah. Jeff, I saw Willie Nelson last week.
No, seriously.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
How's he looking?
I was pretty far away, so I didn't get too close up, but he played really well, and it was a great show. And I just saw that he was coming through. He's going to be in Greenville, and I was like, I better get a ticket now because I don't know how many more of these are going to be available. So we went out and saw him, and it was a good turnout. It was a good concert. I'm glad I went.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So last one we got for you is a two-parter. Do you have any guilty pleasures? And
that we can talk about?
Well,
whatever you want to share.
Yeah, whatever you want to share. And do you have any pet peeves?
Oh God,
that's the second podcast now.
Yeah. I might want to avoid the second half of that. Just
narcissists. Those are my
pet peeve.
Pretty much that's it. A narcissist. Guilty pleasures. Chocolate macadamia covered chocolate. Chocolate covered macadamia.
Chocolate chip cookies. I will eat
right?
chocolate chip cookies till I get sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
One year I
I
made 7 dozen because we were very poor. This is back when we were first married. We were very, very poor. And all we could afford for Christmas gifts was for me to make chocolate chip cookies. I made 7 dozen. He ate 6 dozen of the
Oh my
7 dozen.
Out of my own heart.
Let's go.
Nobody's getting Christmas gifts this year.
Nobody.
I ended
Nobody.
up putting like Easter candy on the.
Ended up just giving 1 cookie per person.
It was so bad. It was so bad. But yeah,
That's terrible.
it was true. Yeah, but I'm the same with it. Chocolate covered macadamias and chocolate covered gummy bears.
No, I
Those are the best. I don't know. Good wine. Good whiskey. You like?
oh yeah,
You like
it's true.
special whiskey?
Good whiskey. Yeah.
As far as rants,
Oh, you have one?
I think the thing that gets if I was going to rant about something that's a pet peeve is somebody who asks for advice and then you give them the advice and then they don't take the advice.
Yes.
Well,
I'm right there with you.
Actually, it's okay if you don't take the advice, but don't tell me you're going to take the advice and then go off and let's have the argument. You say, I don't want to do that. Okay, fine. But
Then they should just ask, what are your thoughts? Instead of what's your advice?
What are your thoughts? That's exactly right.
I just want to know the little bubbles.
That's a good one. I agree with you on that for
Yeah.
sure.
We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Enjoy your trip to Flagstaff.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
Have fun hiking.
We will. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thank
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a great one.